Hey. Hello, hello, hello. All right, welcome. Yes, you are. You are watching Dating Differently with Demi and Dr. Conti. Listen, I'm excited. I'm so excited. This is going to be a really, really good one. We're talking today 50 Shades of Dating, exploring different dating terms, and boy, are there many. So today we're talking all about that, the language of dating, because somewhere between we're just talking, we're dating, we're committed, we're exclusive, things can get very unclear. I'm Dr. Conti Terrell, and Demi and I have combined both of our expertise to create a strategic roadmap so that we can help you, first of all, have a healthy love so that you can confidently choose clarity and sustain the right relationship. So, speaking of relationships, Demi, this goes right in line with what we're going to be talking about today. And, I often ask, sometimes when I'm going out, I want to share this little example of what we're talking about because when I first meet someone and they say to me they're single and they either not dating anyone and they're not in a relationship, I always ask them, well, is there anyone that thinks they're in a relationship with you? Because we do know that oftentimes you can think you're in a relationship with someone, or they may think they're in a relationship with you, and you think something totally different. There has been many times that I've heard women say, friends and clients, and me have heard people say that they're single, and then someone may give you a call or a text or inbox and say, hey, I saw you out last night with my dude. I've had clients, I've had friends that say, girl, guess she called me and say she's in a relationship with this man. So we want to make sure that you are understanding what those terms are. So have you ever walked away thinking that okay, it's one thing and the other person is thinking it's something different? We've all kind of done that. We've kind of done it, right, Jimmy? I've left a dating first date and I thought, look, this is going nowhere. I am not going to probably even talk to this person again. And then they call me and say, oh, that was so great. I can see a really great future with us. And I'm going, no. So, Jimmy, why do you think this happens?
That's so funny you said that because I thought about a time too when I went on a date and I thought, nope. And I can just share, I smoking is a non-negotiable for me. And he knew it and he said he didn't. But when I saw him, I was like, this guy looks like a cigarette butt. And he finally came out and said he smoked every day. And I'm like, why did we waste our time?
Right.
But the word date is really the expectations versus reality. So
Mm.
let's just start with that word. When you hear the word date, what does that mean to you? We're going to put that in the chat. When you hear the word date, what does that mean to you? What does it mean to you, Dr. Conti, when you hear the word date?
Well, for me, and we've taught this, for
Mhm.
me, dating means data, gathering information. That is what dating means. And many of you know, and you've heard me talk about my 5 stages of vetting process. That helps you to slow down the road and truly find out and vet what each person wanted, if this person is going to be aligned with you. And that's what dating is supposed to be about.
For some, though, a date is intentional. It means effort, it means interest and potential. But for others, it's just a date. It's just meeting up. It's casual. There's no expectations. There's no pressure. So let's just really keep it real. If you haven't been out in a long time, right, to on a date, for
Mhm.
for 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 some people, they've been on 4 and 5 in the last couple of weeks, and for
Mhm.
you, this could be your first in 2 or 3 months, right?
Mhm.
This is how misrepresentation happens. And this is where confusion really starts to begin. Okay.
Mhm.
And I say this, I always say, like you, as a relationship coach, I go into this career counselor, right? If
Mhm.
if you were going on a job interview and there you always see, 3 or 4 candidates waiting, or maybe someone just walked out as you were going in. When you sit down, HR doesn't have your offer letter right then and there.
That's
There's
right.
a good chance they haven't even made a decision. And that's really what you have to think of when you go on these dates, or when you go on a meet and greet, when you've been intentional or they've been intentional and you've set it up. This is for men or women. You have to know that that decision hasn't been made yet, and be patient. So,
Mhm.
as a listener, I know some of us may ask, and ask the two of us, how do you temper your expectations when it hasn't been a long time, when it's been a long time since you've been on a date? How do you communicate what it is you want without seeming too eager? And you just stated, for example, when I was dating, I would just say, I'm looking for a long-term relationship that eventually turns into marriage. And I also follow up with, but that doesn't mean it's you.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
doesn't mean it's us. It just means that's eventually what I'd like to get to.
Mhm.
What do you say when you go on those first meet and greets, or on those first dates, or when you have that first conversation?
Yeah, because a lot of times a person will say, "So, what are you looking for? What
Mhm,
is it that you want?" And
mhm.
let me say this first of all: there is nothing wrong, brothers, sisters, queens, who if there is nothing wrong with wanting something serious, and there is nothing wrong with dating with intention.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with. So what's wrong is not being clear about it and then getting upset when things don't go the way you planned. But to answer that question, I do say often up
Yeah.
front and pretty early, I'm in a space and a place in my life right now where I'm not looking to casually date. I'm intentional and I'm looking for something more purposeful that's going to lead to marriage. And it's just simple as that.
Yeah, I think it really is. So, do you think men and women emotionally attach different meanings to the word date?
Absolutely. Well, for many, yes, absolutely. I think, of course, we as women are typically a little bit more emotional. For women, a date can quickly feel like progress and potential and emotional connection. I've often teased about how women will come home from a first date and they're already trying his last name on the back of your first name.
Yeah.
And so specifically more than men have a propensity to get a little bit more attached and a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
For many men, a date can simply mean time spent together, to know someone, or no commitment attachment yet, but just time together. And that's where the disconnects happens. Two people actually are getting together and having the same experience, however, but attaching completely in different manners and meanings. And I actually had a situation where a client and I, you all know that that's what I do. I help clients to find and identify their boundaries and strong intentions and getting healthy love relationships. And I had a client tell me that she was excited. I've gone on a date, Demi, she says, and we had quality time. And so I asked to explain what is quality time. And she says, well, we sat at a coffee shop. I won't go into total details because even how that even came about didn't signify, quality time. It wasn't intentional. It was a happenstance that they were at this coffee shop. They sat down, they began talking, had a great conversation. When she explained it to me, I said, you had a great conversation, but that doesn't mean it's quality time. And we
Mhm.
really had a debate about it. And then not too long, ago, she came back to say, I really understand what you were saying, and you're right. That wasn't quality time. So, date is not a date is not a relationship. A date is not quality time. Again, a date is data, gathering data. So, what happens, Demi, is why the communication and the clarity, this is extremely important. That's why the communication and the clarity up front is extremely important, because assumptions will have you feeling like you're emotionally invested in something that's never been defined. There's never been any kind of intention or clarity as to what you all have, or what you're trying to have, or what you want to have. And so what that leads into is a lot of gray area. And we heard the new term situationship quite a bit. If you're watching, put situationship in the chat. SituationShips. Situationship. And one of the things that I want to point out in that word is ship. And anytime there's a courtship, business partnership, relationship, something is moving. But with that situationship, that gray area, nothing is moving. Nothing is propelling fast. Nothing is moving forward. And situationships is where you have this connection. You build this connection with people without any kind of commitment. You're giving access. I see some situationships coming in the chat. Let me see you put your situationship. Not that you're in one. I just want to make sure we're all talking about, understand where we're going with this word. And so what happens is you have this connection without any commitment. You have access without any accountability. You have feelings without any definition. And it could be confusing. It could cause guilt. It could cause shame. It could cause to lower your self-worth. And it even causes resentment. So I want to ask the question, so why do people stay in situationships longer than they should, or even get in situationships at all? A lot of times people think that, well, I don't want a commitment. So if you can answer that, put situationship in there, but also give me reasons why you think people stay in them. If it's not moving anywhere, if it's not going anywhere, if it's not a ship that's going to anything that's going to be a long-term or a positive. So a couple of reasons I'm going to say is hope. You're hoping that it's going to change, even though you have not made any kind of declaration of what you want. You're not aligned with what that person wants. A lot of times it's emotional attachment, again, very early, very too soon. A lot of times it's fear of starting over. But most of the times it's that lack of clarity and boundaries. So I just want to say this can be a very, very bad gray area, because it ends up causing confusion and causing hurt. And Demi, to be honest, sometimes we're not confused. We just haven't accepted the truth that there was no clarity. I wanted more, and now I'm stuck in this situationship that's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? Yep.
You're right. You want it so bad. What is that term? I want to be the bride now and not the bridesmaid.
Mm-hmm.
My Prince Charming is coming. You're listening to love songs. You know, it's a natural biological fact that, you know, we want to be with someone. We don't want to be alone. And we really start, I think, crossing off some of those non-negotiables. I just talked about a smoker, right? Maybe I don't like smoking, but let's say he just smokes outside the house, or he just smokes before he gets here.
Right.
You know, you really end up finding in the beginning, and I did talk about, you know, what a date is. It's about being intentional, but that means it may just be intentionally putting a date together or time together. But what are they intentional for? Are they intentional because they want your affection? Are they intentional because they want this casual relationship with you? You know, it's been said, you know, what is that term? you are his Friday because he has a Thursday and Saturday and just scheduled a Sunday. The real
Yeah,
truth.
there's a song similar to that.
Yeah, we just don't want to be alone. And maybe we don't get 4 dates in a couple of months or in a month. Maybe we get 1 date every 6 months. And so we start saying, well, I'll just kind of renegotiate my non-negotiables.
Right.
Which we never want to do, right? So that goes into, situationships. And what's the next word we're going to go into is we're just kicking it. That's comfort without commitment. What's the new term they use now? She cool.
She cool. We good. We all right.
Yeah, we're good. You got my time until something else comes along. But understand, when we're just kicking it, you're not a substitute. There's no titles. There's no possibility. You're never meeting friends and family. When it's basically like, I ain't got shit going on, so I'm calling you.
Right.
i.e., bring a change of clothes, but don't bring your feelings.
Right. Absolutely.
And I say that to say, we really have to do self-reflection. We're doing this show for those that are married like myself for, a long time, and now you're divorced and you find yourself wanting to do this again and date differently. For empty nesters, right? For career women like yourself who focused on that. Now you're ready to get out there. Or for those who maybe this wasn't something you wanted, but you're a widower now. You have to do this self-reflection and really realize, what is the desire of your heart? Is it to be in a loving, long-term relationship that may end up in marriage, or just a loving, long-term relationship? And but you also have to know, if it doesn't happen, you have to be okay with it. Or I'm going to put this out there too. Some of us, we want to catch up and enjoy the company of others, but nothing really serious. Because we've been out of the game for a while, and now we just want casual relationships, and that's okay too. You just have to know what it is you want. Be honest with whoever you're interacting with. Be honest with them, because enjoying someone and building with something, right, and building something with someone, they're not the same. Enjoying someone and building something with someone aren't the same. And you have to know which one that is.
Absolutely. Yeah. I had one of my clients to tell me that I said, well, what is it that you're really wanting? Because I said, I think you're really starting to date, but what is it that you really want? And she said, companionship. So I asked her to define what that looked like for her. And so she said, I want someone that's exclusively mine. And I said, well, those are two different things. Because yes, you can have exclusivity with someone that is your companion, but you can also have a companion that's not exclusive. And so we really had a good sit down, come to her name with that conversation. You guys say come to Jesus, but come to her name with that conversation. And she was like, Dr. Conti, you're absolutely right. And so let's talk about that, the biggest unspoken issue in dating. And that's exclusivity. So many times one person can think that we're spending this time together. We're basically exclusive because we spend a lot of time together. The other person is still entertaining options. The other person is, possibly still dating other people, not looking at this at all as something that's exclusive. So exclusivity is, if it's being assumed and it's not discussed, then that's dangerous. So if you are in the audience, do you believe exclusivity should be discussed or just naturally assumed? Do you believe it should be discussed or just naturally assumed? Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit of Contiology that is going to let you know it should definitely be discussed. So time spent does not equal commitment.
Mhm.
Time spent does not equal commitment, and consistency does not equal agreement. So, a lot of times when I'm talking about my 5 stages of vetting, so many people are thinking, well, I don't have to vet this person. We're all automatically consistent, and so we're automatically in a commitment, and that's not true. So people avoid the conversation, and because they don't want to feel rejected, they don't want to come off like, well, I'm being too serious too soon, or I'm going to mess up this vibe. This is going really good. I don't want to talk about being exclusive and something go wrong. But again, then you start to assume that the other person is thinking like you're thinking. And in order to get what it is that you're looking for, you have to first of all be honest with yourself with what it is that you want. And then you have to be honest with that person. And a part of my 5 stage vetting process is, if you are not aligned and this is your standards, my standards. We talked about, Demi and I talked about dating with the intention of getting married. If that is your standard and you're not having a conversation about exclusivity, you have already not allowed the 5 vetting stages to operate the way it should, because you're not being true to your standards. So assumption creates attachment. It creates attachment without agreement. So you're assuming and you become attached to this person, but there is no agreement. And you know how bad that is, Demi? That's like having a business deal with somebody. You start a business with somebody and there's no agreement.
Mhm.
There's no agreement. So you're expecting something and they're expecting something, but there is really no written agreement. And then by the time something happens or go awry, or you're not in a line, you're thinking, well, this is what the agreement was. And the other person was like, no, that's not what the agreement was. That's not what the agreement was. So you want to make sure that you are aligned. There's a reality check here. The reality check is simple. You could be building emotionally while the other person is still browsing options. And that's just a reality check. Exclusivity is not implied, it's expressed and it's agreed upon. And you have to ask, like, what am I, as Demi and I always say, what am I consenting to? Am I consenting to a full-fledged, committed relationship where I'm exclusive, you're exclusive? And what does that mean? Am I just exclusively being with you dating? Am I exclusively having any kind of intimacy with you? You have to have conversations. And come on, like we said, our audience is second time around divorcees, and this information is great for every person, because I wish I had gotten this when I was younger, but we're not kids. We're not kids, Demi. So this is okay to have a discussion about. Oftentimes people are uncomfortable with the titles, and they are uncomfortable with actually defining what they have. Wouldn't you say, Demi?
Absolutely. Let's just bring it back to real life. Sometimes the word dating is used to soften the truth. And like you said, I always say, what am I consenting to? And I like that you said that, because exclusivity to me may not mean the same thing to you. I've had someone tell me, we're exclusive, but if I get with somebody else and it's just transactional, it doesn't change our exclusivity, because that's how they look at being exclusive. And so you really have to know, what am I consenting to? What does exclusivity mean to you?
Right.
Because it may not mean the definition in someone else's head, may be something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
But when I said let's talk or address something really real, sometimes the word dating is used to soften the truth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people aren't unclear. They're just hoping you won't ask for clarity. And I just need to throw in here, sometimes they're going to say, yeah, we're dating, because really they just hitting it.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to hurt your feelings by saying, no, I'm just hitting it. I'm calling you at 2, or I'm calling you when I need something that you have to give me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so they're going to say, yeah, we're dating, we cool, all of that, because it softens the blow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And this is why this is so important. People can only do what we allow them to do,
Absolutely.
and we train people how to treat us. And the word says, where much is given, much is required. And you know, I have a lot of Kantiology statements. And one of my Kantiology statements, I changed that around. And I say, where much is required, much is given. We have got to, in this, if you are wanting to be dating differently and you're wanting something intentional and you're wanting some clarity, we have got to be sure that we are honest and we are clear. There's clarity about what we are requiring, what we like, what we're looking for. And if you do not get that, it is okay to say, kick rocks, toodle, toodles. And that's okay. Because, like I said, as we know, my favorite thing is when you're the cake, cake is good all by itself. And if you're going to add some icing to your cake, it needs to enhance the cake. I am quick to say this is not enhancing nothing Dr. Conte got going on right now. And so, doodles. And I want to ask anybody, if you're listening and you want to share, I want to ask you this question. If there are none, if there is somebody in your space right now and they have not decided that they want what you want, or have you talked about it? If there's somebody that you in your space and you haven't talked about it, do you feel comfortable talking about it? Because we have found a lot of people are not saying what they mean, meaning what they say. Did we talk? We were talking about that. And they are walking away because the definition has not been determined. So have you, if you put it in there. Am I comfortable at being open about what it is that I'm requiring and what it is that I want going forward? Because again, if you're not requiring, if you're not asking, and if you're uncomfortable with standing in your truth, standing on your standards, standing on your boundaries, you're absolutely going to get something that's not going to work for you at the end of the day, right, Demi?
Absolutely. I mean, the first statement that I make or used to make when I meet people, and I don't mean meeting in person, I mean that virtual meeting that you have when you match or connect online or when you're introduced to someone, is telling them what my ultimate goal is. It just, you have to do it. And again, you have to be okay with stepping away. Because ultimately, in the end, you just have your feelings that are hurt. It's not dating isn't just about connection. It's about communication. The words matter, because dating and talking and seeing each other and kicking it and exclusive can all mean completely different things, depending on who's defining them.
Yeah.
And so maybe the real question isn't what are we? Maybe it is, what does this mean to you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
And when you ask that question and someone says to you, well, I like things to be organic, I just kind of want to see where things are going, they're not interested in a relationship.
Mm-mm.
Conte, you said earlier about, is there anyone that thinks they're in a relationship with you?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone that thinks they're in a relationship with you? After you ask, are you married? Do you have a girlfriend? Are you living with somebody? After you do all of those things, and if they answer, well, yeah, a few people, you definitely need to get, what did you say? Kick rocks?
Kick rocks. Wish you the best.
I remember somebody telling me there was 5 people that thought they were in a relationship with him.
Mm-hmm.
2 of them were right.
Right. I remember you telling me, and we both were like, what does that mean?
And no wonder we call him the guy in the witness protection program. That's my name for him because he's hiding out from everybody.
Mm-hmm,
So,
mm-hmm. And then I had one that said, well, let's just see where this goes. And that was okay. Well, it's not gonna go anywhere, because I often tell people, would you get on an airplane and the pilot comes out and say, hey, welcome to Delta, we're about to go, I'm not sure yet, but sit back, relax, and we're gonna see where this goes. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So this has been 50 Shades of Dating, exploring different dating terms. But before you go on your next date, let's make sure that you understand the definition.
Absolutely, because not understanding the definition can not only be confusing, it can be costly and expensive. Yeah.
So if this conversation spoke to you, be sure to follow us and join the Dating Differently Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube page, and follow both of us on our social media platforms.
Absolutely. And join us next week, because we are continuing to give you all strategies to date with clarity, to move with intention, and to choose with confidence. We look forward to continuing to help you to just love intentionally and to heal completely and do what, Jimmy? Date differently.
Date differently.
All right. Good night. Good night, everybody.